To be honest, I have a really small apology to make and a disclaimer. So, this is not really about BIM as in BIM. We're not going to talk about BIM. There's so many people who are more professional than I am at BIM, and dedicated a lot of their lives to BIM and their work to BIM. So, I gave this disclaimer to Victoria, and she accepted. So, I'm in the right here. But I just want to talk about what I've been learning as an architect, as an academic, as a human being, as someone who's just very concerned about where the direction of how we design, what we design, why we design is going the way it's going. So this is supposed to be lighthearted. It's supposed to be a bit of a refresher. Not major academic stuff here, not major results from a big company, just a guy who likes to read and learn and sharing his observations. A bit about me, my name is Faris Yasser. I'm a lecturer at the York School of Architecture. I teach design technology. I specialize in sustainable building technologies, more or less materials and insulation and bricks and anything that basically comes out of the ground. How can you put into a building without putting in foam or petrochemicals or anything that cannot decompose like our bodies do when it goes back to the ground after 100, 150 years. That's basically what I do for a living and as a hobby as well. So, good habits, lemonade, groundedness, and good architecture. So good habits. I assume everybody has heard of the book Atomic Habits. If you haven't, you're missing half of your life, so you really have to read that book or listen to it on Audible. There's a really nice saying there that says, each action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to be. Each action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to be. Now, every time somebody gives me something that has plastic, and I'm not here to teach you about plastic or about PVC or any of that. I'm just giving you a very simple, everyday example. Every time somebody gives me a bottle of water at an event, whatever event it is, this is the picture that comes to mind. And my mind thinks, I can create an island like this if every day I use a piece of plastic. I know that's a really simple example, but please, can we extend that to everything we make? So some of you work with BIM. I know, please, can you think the building you're making and how cool it looks, how heavy it is to create that kind of structure, and how much concrete you have to use, and how much steel you have to use, and how much glass you have to use, and panels that cannot be replicated, it's one of one. You have 5,000 panels, it's one of one. So if you break a panel, you have to go to the company, they have to wake up all of these machines to make one panel. Can we think, if I design this today, and next year I'm on this project, and next year I'm on that project, and next year I work for this firm, and after 10 years I work for that firm, and I'm wearing black and I look like a cool architect, and everybody loves what I do on LinkedIn, how much waste am I creating from the things I'm designing with the great software I'm using with it that is more or less BIM-based? That's how we should think. Every single action you do is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. And it doesn't matter what accolades you get on LinkedIn, it doesn't matter what accolades people say, you know very well what you're doing to the planet, and if you're not suffering the consequences, I promise you, the other 99% of the world are. Because right now, everybody in this room, by the way, is in the top 1% of the world. We are the top 1%. We have roofs over our heads, we have food, we have shelter, we have clothes, we have an education. We are the top 1% of the world. I promise you that. That is the reality. Really nice way he saw it is, if you get 1% better at something, whatever it is in your job, you don't have to have a drastic change, but just 1% better every day, you'll become 37 times better than you were at the beginning of the year if you just keep on improving. 1% every day. Simple mathematics, 1% every day. Yeah? So you don't have to change your whole life. Just shift a little bit. Shift the angle just a little bit of the plane. And instead of landing in New York, you land in Washington, D.C. Just a little bit. 5 degrees makes a big difference in your life. Yeah? Lemonade. Bit more lighthearted. We all say, very common saying, we are what we read. Very true. But in this day and age, we don't really read anymore. We just consume a lot of media and a lot of information. So you can extend from that and you can say that we are what we read, but yes, we are what we see, listen to, think of, befriend, eat, and drink. Today, we see in one day enough images a person in the mid-19th century saw in a whole year. A person in the mid-18th century saw in their whole lifetime. That's the amount of data that's coming into your mind, and it affects you. The reason why I'm dressed the way I'm dressed now is not because I like it. It's because I've been affected by all the things I saw, by what's okay, what's appropriate, what's not okay to wear, and what color, and where, and how. It's all information. What you take in will affect how you act. And by the way, what you eat and drink also affects how you act. There's been studies that prove what you eat, even if you like to eat animals. I'm not vegan, but even if you like to eat, if that animal was tortured throughout its life, with time, it has an effect on how you behave and how fast you move. There's studies on this now. The more fried food you eat affects how you think. Studies. It's not me, just read them. It's amazing. There's not a single thing you consume from mouth to ear to eyes, except that it affects everything. So my question is always, in our jobs with our friends, in our schools, what exactly are we consuming, and then how does it affect how we live and how we practice as architects, as engineers, etc. I've learned 5 words that really made a big difference to my life. And these things, I'd like to say I consume them, right? So shredding. We always focus on what to do. We focus rarely on what to not do. Whereas what not to do is so much easier, and it gives you so much more results than what to do. Shredding concepts and relationships and core beliefs that don't really help you grow are key to becoming a good architect. When I was studying architecture, everyone told me you have to work on big conventional projects. And when I got the chance, I felt the most empty I ever felt in my life. I'm not judging anyone. There are amazing conventional projects out there, and if people don't work on them, we're not going to have hospitals, we're not going to have centers, we're not going to have sports facilities, we're not going to have airports, right? What I'm saying is, it doesn't mean if you don't work on a conventional project, a big time project that's going to be known in every single architectural website online, that somehow you're a failure or you're not contributing anything to the built environment. The second is nomenclature. Words have very strong meanings. Yeah? Saying I have the cheaper price is much different than saying I have the better price. The words we use sometimes about the materials that we use and the energy systems that we use, we're really good at lying to ourselves sometimes. Sometimes this is sustainable. And I can tell you, as someone who works with simulation products all day long, there are so many scenarios where, by the way, using a traditional chimney is more sustainable than using your gas heating at home. There are so many scenarios where that's much more sustainable. And yet, we always like to paint them with certain words. Oh, it emits carbon monoxide. Oh, you're burning wood. Oh. The words we use shape how we actually see things. So please, when we use things, we use words, use the words that actually reflect the reality of things and not what's a buzz or a hip or the next trend. Systems thinking. Most people see the world as a bunch of trees. So we're just single entities working alone. When actually everything has a system. Everything has a system. There's a reason why forests, for example, 20% of forests have, any forest in the world, 20% of any forest has tall trees and all the rest are shorter. Why? Because the tall trees take away all the sun and they give shade to the other trees so they don't get as much sun, so they don't grow as tall. 20% of all felines, for example, are tigers, panthers, jaguars, lions, and all the rest are cats. Yeah? These are systems. The more you learn about systems, the more you understand how the world works, the more you'll be able to respect cultures when you're designing for them. And I'll come to that respecting culture bit to the end of my presentation. The fourth is a word that I actually learned in Arabic. And it's called tawakkul. There are some words, in languages you can't really translate into English. Like in German, there's the word, and forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, I think it's Freudentoff. It basically means in English exactly what it means. When something bad happens to someone that you dislike and you're happy that it happened to them, and you show them that you're happy that it happened to them, but you don't say anything. There is no word for that in English. You can't say envy, you can't say hate, you can't say jealousy, you can't even say spite because it's different. There's a word for that in German. There's a word for that in Arabic. It's called tawakkul. Tawakkul basically means it's when you entrust, when you have complete conviction that everything is going right, but you do your part and you trust that whoever is in control of all of this is doing the right thing, and you know that you have very little you can do, but you just let it be. And you know that things are going in the right sequence, but you don't have all the inputs, nor the outputs. You can't control the outputs. And the last is barakah. Again, this word, there is a word for it in English, which is blessings. And I like to call it less for all the right reasons gives you more in the middle of all the wrong reasons. So we always like to focus on having more, and doing more, on finishing more projects, on posting more posts online, on this, just repeating the cycle more and more. Whereas I've learned from a lot of my teachers, especially in architecture, if you choose to do the right projects, and you choose to do them right, and you choose the right systems, even if you get less jobs, even if you're doing less in the world, they always promise me, and by the way, they were right, that whatever you get from them will be enough. The difference between you and the next person who's doing so much more is not that much in what you can get financially, or from popularity, or from an ego standpoint even. The only difference is how much dopamine you get to cycle in yourself, and how much more destruction you're causing to just creating more without any meaning behind why you're doing it. All this will come to in a second. I've purposely left out most of whatever images I wanted to put in, just so we can just focus on the words we're sharing, or the content, and not images. Images are coming in my last part, which is, good architecture. And this is a really good segue into my third part before the last and fourth section, which is when I spoke about nomenclature. The word telephone means tele and phona in Latin. Tele is a sound, phona is distant. It's a very physical word or physical description of what a phone is. Again, in Arabic, it's the only second language I speak, so forgive me, but in Arabic, the word for that is hatif, and they still use it till now, hatif. A hatif originally means a sound that comes from an unseen place. When you used to get those whispers in your head, be them good or bad, they'd call them hatif. It's something in my head, it's something that's speaking to me. Angelic or otherwise, but something speaking to me. They call it a hatif. Till now they call a phone a hatif, because it's a sound that comes from afar, but there's a soul meaning to it, and there's a physical meaning to it. How you see things, again, is it just physical, or is there a spiritual background to it? The third part is grounded. Now, I find this a kind of a paradox or an oxymoron, if you will. We love to speak about yoga and meditation in our day and age, but a lot of people call it mindfulness. I thought the very purpose of meditation is to be mindless, not to be mindful. We're already full of ourselves, we're full of our ideas, we're full of our insecurities, we're full of our questions and thoughts and opinions and ideas and fears. I thought the very reason of meditation is to be mindless. So with time, I realized that we have a problem. And I'm going to speak about the fourth thing you should never speak about. I always say never speak about intimacy, politics, age, and religion. I'm not speaking about religion. But whenever you touch about yoga, meditation, or anything, it's always religion. And it's always very taboo in any society. But I like to say it in a very positive way. In a very positive way. Usually in English, when we say prayer, it means we're asking for something. That's usually what we say. Again, there's another word for it, which I learned. And it changed completely how I see when I sit down in my privacy and I ask for something, or I ask to be more enlightened maybe in how I act. It's called salah. And salah has a completely different meaning than asking or just prayer. It means, one, it's a place that you should sit in for an extended period of time. It's a place where you should be empty and in your own zone, without people, without the noise of the world, for a long time. They used to call it in the Christian tradition the canonical hours. The canonical hours were in the midnight, and then just before, I think it was just before dusk. And then you had the dawn, and then you had pre-noon, then you had noon, then you had pre-evening, then you had sundown, then you had after sundown. The canonical hours, very known. Just look them up. They said those times are times for reflection. Very known tradition. Yeah? The second is strong roots. They say a person who meditates a lot should be a person with strong roots. They're not a person that will be quick to judge people, or a person who won't let people go first or give them the first chance. Not just ladies first, but everyone first. Everyone before me. I try to give someone, maybe someone else is having a more difficult day than myself. A person who does that needs to have strong roots, and it gives them strong roots with time. The more they stay on their own, the more they meditate. It keeps you upright. It keeps you doing the right things in life, choosing the right decisions. It's funny that one of the word salah in Arabic, it also means your lumbar spine. And they used to call it as such because they recognized that for a person to be able to wrestle, they have to have a strong lumbar spine. And as someone who had spinal fusion, and I have, I think, 8 titanium bolts and screws in my back, I can tell you, no matter how strong you get, if your lumbar spine is weakened, you cannot wrestle. You cannot wrestle anymore. That part is the strongest part of your back. So a person who sits on their own becomes a very strong member in society. They can shift. Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, read whomever you wish. Most of them had a very strong spiritual practice. I don't care what practice they came from, but they all believed in something higher than just a human being. And that's why they were the backbone of society. Burn to renew, it's like a phoenix. You burn yourself to become newer. You become better each year with your new habits. And the last is you cook just to make it right. If you want to cook a piece of meat, so you're brave, but you're not so brave you're crazy, or you're timid, but you're not timid, or you're calm, but you're not so calm that you're timid. You cook it just right. It cooks your heart just right. You become just the right person. And the last thing, it's a conversation. So whatever our meditative practices are, or our spiritual practice is, and whatever you want to believe in, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, in the end, I find it very difficult. And all the architects that I listen to and the people that have taught me, virtually or in person, I've rarely found anyone without a strong spiritual practice that makes them question every single thing they do for the human beings and everything else is going to live in the world that they're creating. I'll go over this and this I'll go straight into good architecture. Before we say what good architecture is, or we can discuss and end with this, I think it's just to say, and what is good design? Just good design, before we say what is good architecture, because design applies to everything. But just a small question I'll ask you all. What is design? Can someone just give me a reflection? What is design? Opinion, really good. It's very dangerous. We're sitting in a room, a bunch of architects and engineers, and nobody has an answer for what is design. There's no right or wrong answer. Creation. Excellent. Famous Steve Jobs quote, design is how it feels, how it looks, and how it works. How it feels, how it looks, and how it works. If one of those is missing, it's not design, right? So I'm using the 10 principles of good design by Dieter Rams to end my talk. Dieter Rams was the iconic designer at Braun. He made the most iconic products in Braun, and Apple engineers are very much affected by his work, and a lot of their work is influenced by his previous designs. Yeah. The first is good design is innovative. We had creative phones. We didn't have an innovative phone. Anyone? Difference between creativity and innovation? Anyone? Anyone?
Innovative changes the way we use something. Creative is more of an idea.
So creative is the conceptualization, and innovative is the practicalization of that idea. Excellent. Yes. Burj Khalifa, extremely creative. One of the most amazing pieces of engineers we've ever seen, ever created. People don't speak about how many trucks they actually use to take away all of the wastewater from the building every day for miles across the whole country. People don't talk about that. People don't talk about how unsustainable it is. People don't talk about how many gigawatts of electricity it uses just to keep it cool and running. People don't talk about the money laundering that happened because of this skyscraper. People don't talk about all these things. They just talk about how many visitors we had every year. So it's creative, it's not really innovative. Another project that's very simple, this is where we can actually say it's innovative, right? It's supposed to be a meditative space, a gym space made of bamboo structures, so it's pretty much sustainable, just a little bit of concrete here and there for the foundations, and they use copper And they used copper because they wanted to age with the environment as it ages, and they wanted to turn it green, so the building is both beige and brown and green, just as the forest is around it, and it gives it a beautiful hue inside. Innovative, practical, not just creative. Good design is useful. This was the first Ron electric razor designed by Dieter Rom. And this is a touchscreen toaster. For the life of me, I don't understand why we need this. I really don't understand, unless you have a fetish about toasting, but. The Gazorga house in Iran, beautiful, timeless, uses the right materials, makes you look inward, not just outward. Enjoy the space in your privacy of your own home. You have water, you have the garden, you have the inner heaven before the outer. Just the right spaces for all families to come together. You don't need too much space. Humans, by the way, we don't need too much space. The more space we have, the more empty we feel. We're not made to live in palaces. We're made to live in comfortable spaces, but not palaces, right? Compare that to a place like the McMansions that we have in the US. Horrible. Horrible design, cheap materials, built quickly, sold at a very cheap price later onwards. A horrible investment. Even some rappers say, I bought a mansion, then I sold it because I had 50 rooms and I was alone all the time. I had nothing to do. What am I going to do with 50 rooms? That's what they say. And they go live in a studio in Manhattan in the end. We're not made for those types of structures, right? Good design is aesthetic. This is a really good background to have on a Zoom call. Makes you look really smart, yeah? But it's a horrible view to have every day because there's no space to breathe. Most of these products that I'm showing, by the way, are designed by Dieter Rom just as a homage to his work and his decent work. This is reproduced till this day. I forgot the unit name. But basically, you can change the shelves, the shelves however you like, and you can move them around, and it's very customizable. And there's even larger sections of them. Just create air and create space. Beautiful book called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying. It's a really boring book, but just read the summary. It just shows you how getting rid of junk you have and being more tidy in your life really changes how you think and how you live. It's a really good book. Again, the summary is good. The actual book is very boring. Aesthetic? I don't know. I know it's a matter of opinion. Gentleman said it's opinion. I know it is opinion, but sometimes it's very difficult to make a case for a building. By the way, I love Norman Foster's work, but this one, I think it just ricocheted a little bit. I don't think you can compare that to something like this ever. Ever, and its beauty. Even if you did this. Some things you can't just copy-paste. Control-C, Control-V doesn't always work, or Command-C, Command-C doesn't always work. Good design is understandable. The nightmare of every single homeowner. How to work your thermostat. Yeah? Google Nest. Simple, intuitive, works, chic, amazing, cheap, lovely, great to hold, tactile. Leon Crayer's foundational diagram. These diagrams, some people call them as, they're just sketches. This is how you plan out a city. This is how you plan out a city when you actually care about the people living in it. And this is what happens when you don't. So he had this concept about minimum distance for maximum achievement and pleasure. We have a concept of maximum distance and boredom. We have the sense of boredom. Every day we're just looking for a new dopamine hit on Instagram. Why? Because you can't really get anything done in the real world. Everything is so far off. Everything is now about the cars and the planes. And there's nothing that's in close proximity. The closest proximity you have is either your phone or how much money you have, so how far you can get. But nothing is in close proximity anymore. There's a reason why we're always addicted to social media. 5, good design is unobtrusive. Some of you may have heard of Muji's minimalistic or minimalist stationery. It's a brand that's become very known, especially with Gen Z. It doesn't even have a logo. They don't put logos on anything, right? On anything they sell. And the whole idea is you're not connected to a brand, you're connected to something you need to use. The practicality of objects. Again, minimalist, maximist. I look at this and I say, why can't all architecture be like this? To be honest. Why can't we have masterpieces that fit in every single country we live in and that respects the culture we're in? We're in Britain and we need to create some sort of British architecture. we're not in Britain, needs to create something that's more local. And if you look at this photo, it fits in so well, it's almost hard to find where the buildings are. That's what I call a culture center. Yeah? Now, I lived in the upcoming city for a decent part of my life, and this is what they call unobtrusive. It's a pretty big statement, isn't it? But I mean, the guy was honest when he was building it, or before he did. He said, imagine a museum that is bold. He said it. The question is, the people that chose the architect to come in and build this kind of architecture, my question is, what habits do they have to always want to prove that they're bravado and we have something better to show than all of the rest of the skyline? And what do they consume and read and talk about and watch to think that it's okay to put a rock on such an old and historic building that's listed? I'm just trying to understand what goes on through their head to think it's okay to do this. I know I say this and some people, I might get some hate from what I'm saying, but like I said, I'm just a guy sharing his opinion. So much so, the actual artifacts inside are not the point of focus anymore. It's even the cladding behind the artifacts. You can't even have a decent look at a fossil. You have to see all the structure that's going behind them. Good design is honest. One of the reasons why people love Apple products, they are honest with their materials. When you're holding titanium, it feels like titanium. They brush it so you feel like it's titanium. When you're holding aluminium, it feels like aluminium. When you're holding your AirPods, it feels like plastic because it is plastic. Some companies like OnePlus, it doesn't show here because of the resolution and everything, but they created AirPods or pods that are plastic, but they give them a leather feel. So you touch them and they feel fake because the texture looks like leather, has bumps like leather, but it's not leather. And you know it's not. It doesn't feel like leather. It's not honest. It's a lie. The product is a lie. It's trying to live something it's not. This is a really nice little hotel I saw when I was learning how to build with mud adobe bricks in Egypt. I went on a 2-week workshop to learn how to actually build this way. And a beautiful hotel that's just hidden. It's just hidden. It doesn't want to even show itself. They want to put all the grass in front of them and all the trees because it's in farmland. And this is how they just create. It's a beautiful hotel, amazing architecture. They didn't even try to put the facade first thing on the street. Although, by the way, they have the right to. By law, they have the right to. They didn't want to. They wanted to recess and put as many trees to fit in with the rest of the agricultural scene. A lot of my work is admin, and sometimes I find it very overwhelming to do my work because I'm head of admissions, etc. But I've never felt more productive in my life than to be in a space that's this honest. The walls are made of lime with straw and clay, and the bricks are clay, and I knew what I'm standing in, and it just felt so refreshing to stand in an honest piece of architecture. Everything else we see is fake. You see plasterboards covering up horrible concrete blocks. You're not seeing the real material many times. You're seeing just facades. It felt so refreshing. I just wanted to use my laptop the whole day, and I never get this feeling. So the spaces we occupy make a huge difference in how we produce and how we're productive or not productive. And a really good example of this is a really known restaurant. It's called Esca by Betty Architects. Looks amazing, right? Looks like one of those movie scenes. However, the way they made it is endless amounts of aluminium sheets, aluminium cladding, and cement to make this. And we had to go through all of these BIM parts and all of these panels to be able to make this organically shaped facade. And then we had to push this idea and fit it in. Smudge it in that, oh, it's emulating the human body. We're trying to take form from the human body. If you wanted to take form from the human body, you could have just made natural walls from natural materials. And then you can just plaster them and use your actual your hands to actually plaster them. You don't need to try to fit all of this in, and the man hours and the amount of effort and money and materials that aren't even sustainable in the end. And they're going to cost you a lot for HVAC to make a space that looks like it's a cave, and it's not a cave. Yeah? Good design is long-lasting. It transcends trends and avoids obsolescence. Again, An iron casserole dish, really good example. Tifal, non-stick, really bad. As long as you see this image, whenever they show you this, just don't buy it, right? And read about what it does to your health and your gut, your gut microbiome. Just read about what these things do. Just don't buy it. New builds, same idea. Masonry cavity walls, concrete cavity walls, very poor insulation. However, English thatched cottages have been here for almost 400 years now. We still have examples of them, 400 years old, we still have them until now. And the Muri house is a really good example. A new build next to an old build, right? And if you actually look at a thatched house and new builds, you'll see that the openings for the windows are more or less the same. I'm actually sometimes astonished how we're not trying to use larger windows for more lighting. We're using triple glazing and double glazing, but we're not using the lighting. So if it's going to be the same design and same small windows, why don't we just use then sustainable materials then? It's not a really good argument, by the way, what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if we're going to make it look this small, then why not use the right materials at least, right? Good design is thorough down to the last detail. The calculator by Dieter. The same calculator, just imagine if you just take away these little colors that make the functions understandable to an average person, and you just make them all one color. It's the same calculator, it's all one color. It's not thorough down to the last detail. The finish is not there. We focus about the finish. By the way, these houses were made with straw, clay, sand, animal dung, lime, and sometimes horsehair, because horsehair doesn't decompose that easily and it holds everything together. It's like an amazing elastic binder. Thorough down to the last detail. This is one of my favorite projects actually. It's called the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, and it was made by architect Abdul Wahid al-Wakil. And what's amazing about it is that, first of all, it was commissioned by Prince Charles before he was king, right? Or King Charles before he was king. What's amazing about this is that he has 3 courtyards. Down on the left, there's a courtyard for people to sit and socialize, and this is where they eat. There's another courtyard right next to the mosque. It's the courtyard for religious studies. And there's another courtyard right next to the library. It's where people gain their knowledge. Because if you're hungry, you cannot feed the mind, and if you feed the mind but you don't have any spiritual practice, you won't be able to give back to the world. You need to have these 3 in your life. Feed your body, feed your mind, feed your soul. And he created open and indoor spaces for all 3 of them. And the result is just amazing. The kind of architecture, the blend of British architecture as well as Islamic architecture at the same time. He brought back traditions that were lost for the past 300 years. Vaults that were not built in the UK for the past 300 years. This architect brought it back to the UK. And he's not even British. But he respects the culture that he's building in. He respects the soil he's on. And something beautiful the king said about Abdul Wahid al-Wakil. He said, following years of determined and dedicated work to realize this exceptional architectural vision, Abdul Wahid, it requires extraordinary skill and sensitivity to design a new building, drawing distinctively from the architecture traditions of classical Islam that can immediately appear so completely at home alongside the celebrated and historic university buildings of Oxford. So it fits in. This blending of styles, this symbolism, narrates a wider and vital message about the blending of culture and faith in contemporary British society to produce a cohesive and unified whole of which we can all be immensely proud of. One of the things I can say when you walk into this building, you really feel like you're at home away from home. Everyone feels this because it respects that you're in a British building, but you're coming to study something particular. It's a wonderful place to be. Blob architecture. You know, this actually got the headline in a magazine, Top of the Blobs. I actually saw it, I called up a blob, and then I found the headline, Top of the Blobs. What does it mean? I have no idea. And you can put it anywhere. It's nice, you can ship it with a helicopter, put it anywhere you want, and it will fit. Like a Super Mario game. Yeah. I don't know. Just Soviet brutal architecture. Just put it in, just so we can fit in with the rest of the world. Everyone's going brutal, let's go brutal as well. Thank God it's been demolished. Thank God. Yeah. And maybe trying, take a pitch roof, put it, just use the scale tool, scale button, and make it 50 times bigger than it is and put it on the library. Nice try. Last two, good design is environmentally friendly. By the way, all the cups you drink in, they're not compostable. And these are greenwashed terms. They're biodegradable, only in Germany, not in the UK. Just do your research. This is a really good example, Breathing Beach House by Karam Architects Labs. They use stone and they use shells and actual stones on the beach to build the house with. And they use additional wind catchers to make the space either warm in the winter or warm in the winter or cool in the summer. Really good example, really modern, just to show that you don't have to be old school to build something environmentally friendly. And we have the Glass House by Philip Johnson. Great chimney inside, but you have to keep it on all the time to keep warm. So I don't see how this can be a blueprint for what is to come. This was supposed to be the iconic house of the next century. It was built in 1954, or 49, sorry. And the last, good design is as little design as possible. We had these MP3s, and then we had this MP3. Same functions, much smoother. Next generation got even slicker and smoother and simpler and easier. I'm not one to like big brands, but this is what I call a decent building. Something that speaks luxury, but simplicity, but local materials, fits in anywhere it's built. It doesn't say I belong on some Fifth Avenue sidewalk, but at the same time it's so elegant that it does. Simple as possible, few elements as possible. Versus, I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate today. I don't care. It's nice, but it doesn't even fit with the building above it. I'm not saying the building above it is that beautiful, that deserves that recognition. It doesn't even fit the context it's in. So, again, thank you for listening. I guess my conclusion is we all have a lot of opportunity to change the world around us. We're given immense chances to be in great places and do great things. Can we just, or at least I'll speak to myself, because I don't want to feel like I'm speaking, giving advice. I'm not in a place to give advice. I'm just speaking to myself and I'm sharing all the thoughts I had with all of you. Can I just take a moment with myself to think, just think, where are my inputs coming from? What type of person am I becoming on a daily basis to practice the habits I'm having? And then how does that shift into the built environment? Because I think, to be honest, we're working backwards here. We're creating the built environment. We're wondering, oh, who's this person who made it? Or I'm going to be the person in this. And now, what am I going to consume in my life while I'm in this building? We have the cycle the wrong way around. And then it creates architecture that we're proud of momentarily, but I don't think it's going to stand the test of time.